Oh, welcome to our Earth Day edition of Sunday Science, everybody. It's glad to have everybody with us again. So, being Earth Day and being as we've been discussing climate and all sorts of that fun jazz, we didn't quite get to everything we intended to last week, but we are going to wrap that up here in just a little bit. But Stephen has found a very, very awesome video for today, so I'm going to go ahead and toss things on over to you, Stephen.
Okay. It's just a little Earth Day video I ran across. Some people probably already seen it, but we can just watch it first, and then I can make comments on it or whatever, just like last time.
All right.
Sorry, I have a splitting headache today, so I don't want to talk.
All right, so as not to make that worse, I will keep my speech to as little as possible. So it's not to make it worse for you.
Oh,
I will whisper. I'll whisper very softly.
All right. Ready for your video, Steve? Here we go.
Mm-hmm.
I liked that video. That was a good choice, Stephen. I hadn't had a chance to watch it yet, so I was watching this going, wow.
I'm glad you. Oh, I liked it too. It was simple. It was simple. It showed some negative impacts, some positive ones. You know, the only thing I have a beef with is it's like 7.6 billion people. That's more people to do sustainable things. Yeah, but eventually there's become so many people that it is no amount of individual acts are going to help. But that's
it'll be like Futurama with the euthanasia booths, you know, the suicide.
Right.
It's people. Soylent Green.
It's Soylent Green. Oh, goodness.
But no, like I said, I liked it just because it showed some positive things too. And by the way, 14.4 centimeters, that's about 5.5 inches for those of us on this side of the pond. So that's 5.5 inches of sea level rise since 1970.
Well, that's actually impacted some areas from other documentaries and things that I've watched and people I've spoken with, especially in the southern part of the United States, where new swamplands developed. That now I can't walk to school that way anymore because it's all turned into a swamp. Now I don't live in the South, so I don't have any firsthand experience there. But
it is a problem, and I just think it's funny that the people most impacted by this, like along the southern coast of the U.S., are the ones in the greatest denial. It just baffles my mind. I don't. Whatever.
Right.
Indeed.
I mean, I don't have to worry about sea level rise up here so much. But yeah,
I'm not gonna be affected by sea level rise until the oceans are about 7,000 feet deeper. So,
well,
I'm near a river and it floods out here.
I don't even think it's really happening out here at the New Jersey shore, where I'm 400 feet from the ocean. No, I'll be fine. Nothing's happening. It's all a hoax. I'm in denial.
Well, see, I think part of the problem too was, I don't know how many of you guys remember back in the 80s and stuff. You had a lot of people. You had the climate alarmists. The ones who are like, oh, it's going to rise 30 feet by the year 2020 and stuff like that. And I don't think that helped any at all.
Probably not.
I mean, no serious scientist was saying that. And it's just like, alarmists do so much more damage than any amount of bad science could ever do.
There's something to be said in how you deliver content, and if you deliver it in such a way to where you're trying to terrify people and you scream wolf all the time, and there's not a really pressing wolf, then people just stop listening to you. So,
indeed.
I mean, you have to deliver it in a very rational type of way, but if you're screaming at people, after a while, they just do not want to hear it anymore. So.
I think the great fix may have put a few people off as well with climate change. Climate change, or at that time we were still talking global warming, weren't we? I know how we'll fix it. Your government will fix everything. We'll make a carbon tax. Oh, a tax. Okay, that's gonna fix everything.
Right.
I could see where everyone. I could see where anyone who was leaning, sort of in the middle and leaning towards, okay, there seems to be a lot of evidence for this. Okay, so the fix is another tax. That's what you're saying. You're gonna soak up some more money, and miraculously everything's gonna be fine.
It's like, where does the tax money go? That's not what they don't consider that. Where's the tax money actually going? Is it going to more technologies to get us off of coal and off of fossil fuels?
No.
Well, if it was, they would have announced that.
Never goes to what they say it's going to go to. Hey, remember in the 70s when they said the lottery was going to fix public education? Who remembers that?
Yeah, indeed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If that was the case, that would have been good public relations to say that, not just, hey, we got a carbon tax, it'll fix everything. It would have been, here's a bunch of initiatives, and guess what it's going to be paid for by? And then they would have said, hey,
you guys.
Well, it's kind of like how kind of like out here in Colorado with our marijuana legalization, that was supposed to fix a lot of our school problems. And I don't know, our teachers are on strike with the rest of the country's teachers because they've been on a 12-year raise freeze.
But are the children less unruly now?
No, the children are fully educated now.
They all seem so peaceful. I don't understand it.
Oh, goodness.
Anyway.
Well, it happens.
Indeed.
Unfortunately. I mean, can't change everything, but you can definitely do your best to try and make the changes that matter.
Right.
Indeed.
Well, that's what's important. Do what you can with the time that you've got. That's all you can do. Now,
with the sustainable seafood one, I that they mentioned, the brief thing, eat sustainable seafood. That is certainly an important one. And I remember one story. We'll maybe we'll pull it up in the future about a crab farming or something, and it's not the standard. Okay, let the crabs grow up, harvest the crabs. Okay, everybody eat the crabs. Believe it or not, as I recall, they yanked one claw off and tossed the crab back in, and apparently the crabs didn't mind at all and reclawed themselves. This was their model of sustainability, and they didn't have to restock on crabs. Now that's
interesting.
I see. I can't imagine that being too pleasant for the crabs, but I wonder if you just had to yank it off or hold on to it and scare the crab, and the crab would just ditch it on its own. But I mean, it sounds a little violent to me, but it certainly qualifies as sustainability.
I don't really even know how to respond to that.
Really, we just think of it. Come here, you. We're saving the earth. Yank.
Right. Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, the seafood one always gets me because, again, landlocked and distantly landlocked. We don't get good seafood here. It's just not the way it works. So I'm sitting down thinking about, sustainable seafood. I'm going, well, I like catfish. Does that count as sustainable?
Well, I mean, there are catfish farms. You can have actual farms for fish.
Indeed.
You can't. That's none of that happens here, obviously, though. Cattle. Oh yeah.
Not where you live. They have catfish farms out where not far from where I live. We got to have our catfish, man.
I mean, you have to remember a large river in central Colorado is a decently athletic person could jump over it.
Ah, I see. Well, here at the coast, we seem to be a little low on fish. Not even 20, 25 years ago, we had here in New Jersey what was called the whiting run. Whiting is a cool little fish, and apparently they traveled in just flocks of them, just bunches. And when the whiting run was on, all the fishermen would go out to the local fishing piers, and to fish for them, you have a whiting jig. It's called, has 3 hooks on it, one string with 3 hooks. One at the bottom, one about a foot up, and one about a foot above that. And I don't know why, but that was called a whiting jig. And you drop it in the water, and when it was that time of year, I remember it was cold as hell. This was a long time ago, so it was sometime in the winter months. If you dropped it in and you waited for a while and just pulled it up, you would have 3 of these damn fish, one on each hook, and you could do that again all night. And you just go home with buckets and buckets of fish. And this would go on for about 2 weeks. That is no longer. There is not only no whiting run, there are no whiting passing by New Jersey at all. So
seriously?
Yeah. And this was, think of going from a ridiculous abundance like that. Now, that specific case, I cannot tie to, it's got to be tied to something. I haven't seen it. We do have a couple hundred miles off coast. There is one of the largest shark nurseries around, where natural. I don't mean there's people raising sharks. but I haven't seen any really, really, really fat sharks. So
darn, shark farming sounds like an awesome career.
I don't think I can only assume it's either changes in the aquatic environment, changes in ocean currents where the temperatures are not right, or toxins. Could very well be that.
You know, what would be interesting? Okay, I used to watch The Deadliest Catch a long time ago when it first came out, and I thought, man, that's a heck of a job. I almost feel a little bit guilty buying king crab from time to time. And I'm like, wow, these people, but they know what they're getting into. I wonder how climate change affects them if the weather is worsening, you know, and you can only imagine with the sea level as far as the temperatures changing, wonder how that affects, you know, them getting the wild king crabs.
That was a good point.
I think they did make mention of that on some of the shows, the changes in the condition. I don't know. I stopped watching after No More Phil. That was just too sad.
Oh gosh, yeah, man, I loved Phil. And there were some ships I was like, I really hope they don't catch anything. They're mean.
Yeah. Yeah.
I hope you get nothing, and then I feel bad for the crew. I'm like, well, it's not their fault. Their captain's a jerk. I should be the captain, but they wouldn't listen to me. I'd have to yell at them every day and call them horrible names, and then maybe they would do what I asked.
Oh, man.
Well, all right.
Entirely random. I'm sorry, my brain went there.
It happens.
The science of Deadliest Catch.
That is a thing, man. That would be a cool thing. Somebody other than Mike Rowe, please. I'm tired of Mike Rowe. I'm sorry. I just am. But that's another story. Carry on.
Alrighty. Well, obviously many sustainability things that we can focus on as individuals to try and cut our own impact down. Definitely necessary, and it doesn't seem like a whole lot, but that one item that you consider to be disposable that you use because it's cheap, it's not the right answer. That's you might spend twice as much on something that's going to last your whole life as opposed to use it for a month and throw it away. And the plastics production is a huge issue right now, obviously, with islands of trash plastic floating around in the ocean. These aren't good things.
Indeed. I first heard about that from you think I would have noticed or known about it before, but quite a few years ago, my nephew lives in Maui, told me about Plastic Island. And it's amazing how big it is.
It's enormous. And it's not all, plastic drinking bottles and things of that nature. A lot of it is industrial plastic waste, so shavings and chips and microplastics that you can't just go out and pick them up and pull them out of the water necessarily. It's a very concerning issue.
And since there is no financial incentive to do anything about it, I don't know if anything's going to be done.
You can't make money off of pulling plastic out of the ocean.
If there was some money to be made scooping it up and recycling it, then that a lot of that would be going on right now, but apparently there's not.
No, not whenever it costs less to make a new product than it does to recycle it, to gather it and recycle it, you're always going to have those issues. And then there are also a lot of things that the recycling process is actually worse for the environment on than reusing, and sometimes it's repurposing as opposed to recycling that needs to take place, and that can always be a tricky one. But I've noticed I'm a pretty avid woodworker, and the wood reclamation that's happening with a lot of small-time people's woodworking projects is absolutely phenomenal these days. So there isn't trash. There's everything can have some sort of a purpose, and even just taking the time to sit down and make yourself a compost pile and you're going to be a lot happier with the results in your gardening, and you're not just adding more things to a landfill to sit down and belch methane into the atmosphere.
Somebody had mentioned about plastic-eating bacterium that they found, and they didn't know how they would act in salt water. The other thing you have to consider is when you're introducing a microbe into an ecosystem, you also don't know how that microbe is going to react with other life in that ecosystem. So they may plastic what happens if they manage to start nomming on a particular necessary wildlife. Is there an effect on algae? Is there especially photosynthetic algae? We need those right now. Or is there an effect on other types of fish? Do they eat coral reefs? I mean, and we also have to keep in mind, because we've lost a lot of coral reefs, the Coast Guard and other type of marine-based organizations now also work to try to put in almost like plastic, or at least a polymer-based type of pretend coral reef, in order to try to keep some kind of biodiversity in a particular area where the coral reef has died off, to encourage other life forms to stay. Predators, a housing thing for fish, a place for anemones to kind of hold on to and grow, things like that. So we got to keep in mind, we don't know what that bacteria eating plastic stuff, or, was that right? Plastic eating bacteria. I got that backwards. Plastic eating Anyway, the bacteria that eats plastic, we don't know what that effect is fully, unlike the other stuff that we're trying to do to correct some of the problems that we've generated, especially with the coral reefs and other wildlife in the area. That would be an interesting study, though, to kind of find out.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's with the introduction of life forms like that. I think back to the statement we made, maybe what was it, last show or the show before, that pretty much everything we touch we screw up.
Yeah.
Do you know about the parachuting cats? Do you know that story?
Parachuting cats. I do
not.
Yes,
okay. I can't remember. There was a town. Okay, I'm trying to think. I think it was a South American town. Just Google if I get the names wrong, I am sorry in advance. If I get the countries wrong, I'm sorry. But I know that there was a tropical climate that had a really, really, really big issue with malaria, and the thing that they wanted to do was just go spray DDT in there and get rid of the mosquitoes. Well, once they got rid of the mosquitoes, another population started to rise that normally wouldn't be so problematic. So there was like these other type of bugs that were like eating away at houses, and then these lizards that normally eat these bugs started eating these bugs, and so that threw off that particular population. And then what they had to do, and then the rats got out of control, and so what the U.S. had to do at that point is parachute cats in to this area to try to control the rat population. It was like a domino effect across the ecosystem. So many different populations of organisms were just thrown out of whack from spraying DDT on there, trying to get rid of the freaking mosquitoes to stop the malaria. It was just horrible. So they literally parachuted cats into the country to try to control the rat population, because the rats were carrying like all kinds of diseases and making the people sick. So
a little plague never hurt anyone.
A little plague never hurt anyone. I'll see if I can Google that story and put it in the YouTube chat for people to go and investigate further if they like.
See, when you said parachuting cats, I assumed this is going to be a humorous story that did not actually happen, but is intended to make a point.
It's called Operation Cat Drop. That's what it's called.
Oh.
Operation Cat Drop. I'll put and if I got the order of events wrong, that is my fault. It's been a while since I've done that, but I'll put the link here in the YouTube chat. See, this is why we can't just go introducing stuff into.
Oh, that doesn't stop people though.
Systems. Yeah, it was in Borneo. Okay. the cat drop occurred to replenish the cat population because all of the different things. Okay, so it started. DDT was sprayed to reduce malaria. The thatch-eating caterpillars did manage to avoid the DDT and proliferated with the result of enhancing the decay of the thatched roof. So the thatch-eating caterpillars that normally are eaten by the freaking mosquitoes, they're resistant to that. They started eating everybody's houses. And then DDT caused the death of cats in some areas where it was sprayed indoors. And then the deaths were caused by indirect ingestion of the DDT by the cats. And then that caused a rise in the rat population. And then so they had to bring in cats and parachute them into Borneo to deal with all of the stuff that happened.
Okay.
Wow.
See, parachuting cats, when I woke up this morning, there was no way I would have predicted that I would be hearing about that. I had not heard about that until just now.
Yes, there you go.
Like I said, when Mel first said, I thought it was just going to be a funny story that had a point. No, it's a real life little old lady that swallowed the fly story. For real.
That ends with cats being thrown out of airplanes.
Indeed, which, as we know, evolution has done an excellent job of preparing cats for parachuting. How'd they get him to pull the little cord?
See, if I would have saw that, I would have thought the meow apocalypse was upon us and that we were going to die at the hands of our feline overlords.
Oh my gosh.
Those poor kitties, they probably are just traumatized for the rest of their lives. They're like, I can't possibly go outside. The last door I went out of, I fell like how many feet and hit the ground.
Can you imagine being the person in the person making the parachutes if you didn't already know what it was that you were making these tiny parachutes for? You go to work one day. Oh, I got to fill this work order of 5,000 tiny parachutes. I'm scared.
I wonder if they maybe just drop them in crates, perhaps. But that seems a bit rough too. So I don't know.
A bunch of cats in a crate falling through the sky. That does not sound like it would end well for the cats inside.
Yeah.
I'm not certain how that, but yeah, they parachuted cats out. I didn't actually think of the mechanism.
It says they drop by parachute. It doesn't say exactly how.
No, but it's funnier to think of the cat all strapped into a little harness with a little kitty ripcord to pull.
It's like Rocket Raccoon, except kitty version. Okay, right. Let's do this.
All right, cat. Here's what you do.
Hardcore Army Corps type of cats that are ready to go and do their duty and get rid of the rats to help families.
All right. Well, that was. I think we've learned something today.
You know, that is the idea behind Sunday Science. It is to learn something.
I would agree. That is one of the myriad of things that I did not know has now been removed from that category, and now that is something I know. Thank you, Mel.
You're welcome. Don't spray DDT in villages, kids. It's not a good idea. You'll have to drop cats out of an airplane.
Yes. Otherwise, else cats. Got it.
Okay. Alrighty. Well, so moving on from parachuting cats.
It's hard to beat that.
It is hard to beat that, and you might not like me that much, Cy, but it is definitely a very important thing that we have to get to. When discussing anything, actually, in the world of science, especially when it comes to climate science, there does have to be this fun little thing known as consensus, and I believe that you would like to share something that helps show kind of what this particular process is.
Oh, indeed. I do happen to have a little video here. Let me get things set up so our esteemed panel can see what's what as well. Let's see here. All right, there's that. And let's see. Yep. And here is the video. It is called 97% of climate scientists really do agree. And here it comes.
97% of climate scientists agree. Humans are causing global warming. It's one of the most famous statistics in all of science that experts, the people who know the most about Earth's climate, agree almost universally that humans are warming the planet. Where does this 97% number come from? The most famous source of the 97% agreement comes from a study in 2013 by Australian scientist John Cook. He looked at almost 4,000 scientific papers that made some statement about whether humans were the main cause of climate change. And 97% of those papers agreed with the consensus. To make sure nothing was misinterpreted, he also asked scientists to rate the views of their own papers, and they found the same 97% agreement. It shouldn't surprise you to learn that people have attacked this study, saying its methods were wrong, that it miscounted things. But even if we ignore Cook's study, turns out lots of other people have looked at this question and found a similar answer. Between 90 and 100% of experts agree that the climate is changing, Earth is getting warmer, and we're responsible for a lot of it. What does it mean to measure consensus? First, you identify the experts. In this case, the experts are thousands of scientists who study climate and publish their work in peer-reviewed journals. Peer review means that every finding that's published is analyzed by people working in the same field, people who really know what they're talking about. It's not flawless. Mistakes occasionally happen, but the system is built to correct those mistakes, and it's by far the best process humans have ever come up with for doing good science. Once we find this group of experts, we analyze their opinion for or against a particular idea. Sometimes this is done by studying what scientists have written in their papers. Other times, scientists are surveyed directly. This can even be done by listening to what scientists say in public. Now, some scientists don't explicitly express an opinion either way. They're not included in the analysis. Consensus is the fraction who support an idea divided by the sum of those who support plus those who reject the idea. All these different methods have ended up with the same conclusion. The people who know the most almost universally agree about what's causing global warming. But if you ask everyday people what they think the consensus is, they guess that only 55% of climate scientists agree. That's way off from what experts actually think. Why does this gap exist? Because, surprise, there are people out there who spend a lot of money and effort manufacturing doubt. In a lot of research papers, scientists never specifically write, humans are causing most global warming. These papers are usually excluded from studies about consensus because they don't give a position either way. People draw different conclusions from this. Some say not giving a position is exactly what you'd expect from scientists who agree that something's basically settled. Like how physicists don't write gravity is real in every single paper. Biologists aren't regularly citing Darwin and natural selection. They're accepted as true. But critics of global warming science claim that any scientist who doesn't specifically say in every paper that they agree with the consensus should be counted as uncertain, or even counted as rejecting it. And this is a very strange claim to make, that any climate scientist who doesn't write, I believe that humans are the main cause of global warming, is actually uncertain or doesn't believe that humans are the main cause of global warming. To show you why this is flawed, let's apply the same logic to another scientific idea. Plate tectonics is the theory that Earth's crust is made up of several large chunks that move over time, and that new crust is made at some places and eaten up at others. Not a controversial idea today, but you might be surprised to learn that before the 1950s and 60s, most scientists didn't accept it. Researchers looked at recent geology papers using the same criteria critics of global warming science claim should be used on climate consensus. That any paper that doesn't explicitly state that plate tectonics is real should be counted as uncertain or as rejecting it. Turns out, not one single paper out of hundreds specifically endorsed the theory of plate tectonics. So clearly, plate tectonics is a hoax? Doubt about what's causing climate change really only exists among people who, how should I put this, aren't experts. And that's a big problem, because when we think scientists are divided on an issue, we're less likely to think the issue is a problem. This also means if more people understood how much agreement there really is about humans causing climate change, we could start paying attention to more important questions like, what do we do about it? People sometimes say that science doesn't work by consensus or by agreement, and that every truth must be decided by experiment, but this is wrong. Consensus or agreement is a hugely important part of science. When scientists do experiments, they don't repeat or reestablish every single bit of knowledge that got them to that point. They, and I hope we, trust in the process of science. In every field, there are things that are well enough proven, that are agreed upon, and these are where scientists start from to journey out into what's actually unknown. When it comes to the science of global warming and climate change, experts agree overwhelmingly on the cause. I think it's time we start talking about what's really important. That's why I'm excited today to announce a new project here on YouTube, one I've been working on for most of the last year. It's a new channel dedicated to stories about climate change and climate science called Hot Mess. Have a look. I'm Joe.
I'm Miriam.
And I'm Talia.
Let's discover how our climate works,
How we can adapt to changes,
and how we can solve this mess. Our planet's getting warmer and weirder.
so let's get started.
It's brought to you by the same amazing people that make these awesome videos here on It's Okay to Be Smart, along with a few new faces. Hot Mess is going to be the best channel on YouTube for stories about our planet's changing climate. I know that's something that a lot of you care about, so come join us over at Hot Mess. Stay curious. Go watch this episode right now, and then I want you to try something. Find at least one person to share it with, and find out if you agree about what's changing our world.
Well, there we go.
Yay.
And yes, they gave us that great description on consensus. So of course we let their commercial run at the end as well. Hell, they did the work to make the video. There's no reason they shouldn't get their plug in.
And it's for cool stuff.
Indeed, I would agree. But anyway,
I was just gonna say I wanted to make some comments on the video unless someone else wants to go first.
I saw you in the chat. You have something to add about plate tectonic. I'm watching these things.
I can't let it go.
Go for it, Stephen.
I can't let it go.
Go ahead.
No, I mean, first of all, we need to keep politics out of science, and I don't have a problem with his analogy. I don't have a problem with that. I just when he said before 1950s plate tectonics, there was no plate tectonics until the theory of plate tectonics came out in the 60s. Continental drift was not plate tectonics. Wegener thought the continents slid across the ocean bottom and postulated no mechanism of how they did this. That's why continental drift was never really accepted. But continental drift was not plate tectonics. A lot of people think it is, but it wasn't. That's all I had to say about that. Sorry. It's that.
Okay. Duly noted. And a damn good point.
Absolutely.
Let us see who among us has had the most experience with this whole consensus sort of thing. Mel, do you have any comments on this? What do you think of the presentation? Is it? Do you think it was right, or
the consensus definition is?
Or do you think more about having people only experts in the field, or do you think perhaps it's not fair that they don't include, I don't know, more senators and people like that when they try?
Politicians suck. Sorry.
I think what they need to consider with consensus, if we're talking about scientist consensus in regards to climate change being caused by global by humans, or global warming linked to primarily human activity, or the majority of it, then the scientists that have the general consensus are the ones that are involved in the research. Now, I am not involved in climate change research. I am a scientist, but I'm not involved in climate change research. But as an outside scientist, there can be a separate consensus amongst people who can read said work and say, why, yes, this is what it says, this is what it means. I agree with the general consensus of scientists who are in said field. So there needs to be a division there, or at least a clear understanding of consensus of experts in the field or a consensus of a population of individuals. And then we have to go, okay, what is this population of individuals? People who do not science, or people who do science, or people who understand science. I mean, that's kind of why I like that National Science Foundation survey that happens every few years. The 2014 one is quite eye-opening because 25% of Americans think that the sun revolves around the earth. So when we're talking about general consensus, we need clear definitions that 97% of climate scientists agree it's caused by people. So
Yeah. Agreed.
yeah, there needs to be a clear understanding that we're not talking about Bob from the Safeway. Doesn't
Well, that's a good point to make. Yeah, and but you know how the media portrays things a lot of times.
Yes. So. I have big issues with the way the media portrays science, especially when they come out with chocolate is linked to reduced heart attacks. I'm like, well, that was a study done by the American Heart Association, but it was funded by Nestle. What they said was not eat lots of chocolate candy bars. They looked at the cocoa powder, not it already formed into a giant candy bar for you to consume. Do not eat lots of chocolate.
Does anyone remember Cold Fusion?
Remember Cold Fusion? Have you hit YouTube recently? Apparently, it's happening in everybody's garage all over the planet.
Oh, are these the same people who have been woke because they don't see a curve?
Yes, and I think they got some information on how to do this from Bilu, I'm told. I'm not sure. Yeah, something like that. Anyway.
And I thought that the Phoenix Theory guys were out of their minds.
Oh.
Have anybody seen anything on Phoenix Theory?
Phoenix Theory? What in the heck is that?
It is one of the most outlandish ploys to try and make an attempt at rewriting physics as a whole as we know it.
Oh my.
And at the very end of any one of their little spiels, that's when you finally get to the GoFundMe page.
I see.
But yeah, they're essentially attempting to rewrite all of particle physics as we know it.
Or they just decide that it just is going to work in their way because.
Well, yeah, they're going to make hoverboards because they know the secret, but they need the money.
Okay.
Of course.
So, I have look, this is a giant T-Rex right on my desk right here. It's totally real. This is a giant real T-Rex. Give me $200,000 and I'll mail it to you. It is a tinfoil hat, and don't pay any attention to this cardboard thing here. That's not real. This isn't a Christmas ornament. It's a real T-Rex.
It's a label. We label all of our wildlife.
It's okay. This says T-Rex right on it.
See?
So that makes it real. It's a real T-Rex.
It wouldn't say that.
Give me money.
You right that it is.
Oh my gosh.
I bet if we all set up a Poe YouTube and asked begging for money and just made outlandish claims all the time, we'd probably all end up rich people.
Indeed.
See, now, guys, I have actually come up with an idea for a new show, and this might be fun. It's kind of like an Onion version, except for science. And we just come out with absolutely outlandish things science-wise, and then I generate completely fake graphs that totally look real, and then I charge my viewers to come up with why is it wrong.
Oh, that's actually good.
I see.
But I need people to help report with me. I'm like, and today I have this particular study that I found, and this and this and this and this, and then we present it as and we will say it's a parody. It's not real science because there will be people that think it's real. So I've convinced people of things just by saying things to them, and they're like, "Oh wow, really?" I'm like, "No." No. Apparently I have one of those voices to where I'm completely joking and somebody thinks I'm serious. And then I'm just like, no, that was a joke.
And you're not worried about the clear and present danger of it does not matter how many times you could preface every assertion with "This is not real, you idiot," and then close it with "This is not real, you idiot." And there's still the danger of starting the next conspiracy theory.
Yes. I understand that, but at least those individuals will make themselves known pretty quickly, and then you can just block them and be like, "You're dangerous." Block. Oh my goodness.
Yes, but when it would be a hell of a lot of fun.
I think so. But that would be cool to say, charge my viewers and say, okay, response video. What is wrong with it? Go. And see what they say.
That would be pretty interesting.
I
have on clothes, you gross people in the chat. It's a Wonder Woman tank top. It's a brand new one. And I'm drinking out of a Wonder Woman glass. I see you, factard. I've had enough with this on Twitter.
Hey, factard didn't say anything bad. It's just because of the camera angle.
Yes.
That's what he meant. He didn't say anything bad. It's not.
It is.
It's not echoes of Twitter. Don't worry.
Poor Strike was in on that going, good Lord.
Well, we all celebrate Earth Day in our own way.
Indeed.
Oh,
yes.
I won't bring that up here. My face is red now.
I didn't. I'm told.
Does anyone want to see my moves?
I bet your moves are lovely, Stephen.
With everybody celebrating Earth Day, I did not see this. If you guys have seen it, you can confirm or refute this. I'm told our president celebrated Earth Day by...
You guys are pretty robotic right now. I can hear you. Does Cy know about Cleavage Gate?
Cy saw it unfold on Twitter.
Yes, indeed.
I heard about Cleavage Gate on G+. I don't know.
Okay, really quick, brief thing. I was getting back into working out at the gym, and I'm not aware of my chest all the time because it's just like my arms or my feet or something. It's just there. You're not thinking, oh, I have a chest all the time. Women don't think that all day. And so I took a picture after a workout. I'm like, guys, I'm going back to the gym. This is my self-care. It's hard for me to do. Sometimes self-care is hard. I try to promote people to do good things for themselves. And then immediately there started comments on my cleavage. Immediately. And this guy made a joke about it. It's like, why was I talking about your cleavage? I was just talking about cleavage in general. I'm like, but it was a response to my picture. And he wasn't the only one. And he got mad because I didn't call out every single comment I got. I'm like, I don't have time to do that. So call out every single comment. And then it went from, oh, you can't take a joke, or you did this on purpose. And another guy said, well, it's a trap then. You were trying to trap people to say things about you. And I'm like, dude, no, I'm not. I don't care.
Oh, my gosh.
I don't care that much. So, and then it escalated that to him calling me a bimbo. He just went, and it went on for 4 days. 4 days this guy ranted. It was just like, other people reported him, and he ended up getting suspended on Twitter for a little bit because it just escalated into a nightmare. And I was just like, man, Cleavage Gate.
And
can we, it's just like, okay, I really wasn't looking for comments. Like, yes, that was Cleavage Gate. So I'm just a bit sensitive, factard. I wasn't like, factard's gross like that. I just didn't mean that way. It's just a bit hypersensitive because I've been on full blast from people on social media about this nonsense. So, I just get it so often. You guys got to understand. I get that stuff mess so often. It just gets tiring after a while. That's all. And it is not every person. And that was a harmless comment, factard. I will say that. But yeah, on his part, not the dude that made jokes and said that I couldn't take a joke and I was a sad bimbo.
Yeah, the base of the Twitter thing was, I didn't see it that way from the beginning, but after reading the comments that you had to deal with, now I understand. See, it's all your fault.
It's totally
right?
my fault. I should totally know better.
Indeed, and I am not sure. I'm not sure what you did wrong, but apparently you did. So,
yeah.
Anyway, yeah, that was interesting and filled up quite a bit of my feed.
I took it as like an educational, teachable moment. And like, okay, guys, now imagine being a woman and having this happen to you all the time, walking down the street, going grocery shopping. And people like, somebody messaged me, goes, does this happen to you other places on online? I said, in real life, why do you think I wear giant headphones when I go grocery shopping? That means I don't have to talk to people. So, because it happens there too. It happens everywhere. I have strange men approach me in parking lots. I'm just like, if I have on giant headphones or I'm pretending I'm on the phone talking loud, they tend to leave me alone. So it's like all the time.
So there are strategies here. Okay. Well,
there are strategies here that I put in place to where I don't have to deal with the nonsense.
And that's and I gotta say it's demonstrate my own ignorance and it's I don't know if that's an insulting thing or not, but it's an ignorance that is inbuilt. It's like no one has ever come up to me and said, "What are you doing, waving that nose around in my face?" Well, no, it's my. What are you talking about? It's my face. I walk around. I go outside. This is what I do.
And it's my nose. I feel like I have a thing for noses, man. You should know better.
Yeah. and since most of the guys that were lobbing the accusations of everything being your fault are in a similar position to me, no one has ever said, "God damn it, cover those ears up." It's they don't understand what the offense actually is. But anyway,
they don't. And well, as an aside, a lot of women don't speak up, and so the thing is a lot of good guys like yourself don't know that a lot of this happens because you're not in tune to it. And that's not inherently your fault, but at the same time, women are not speaking up about it because you saw it happen. It escalated quickly, and that happens offline and online too. And so sometimes it's easier for women to just block, report, and be quiet because they don't want to get the abuse that follows from that. And that's what happens. It happens all the time.
I wish that wouldn't, because I mean, if that does happen, what that means is I could inadvertently offend people. And you know me, I want to intentionally offend people. If I'm going to offend someone, it's going to be by choice with full knowledge of what I'm doing ahead of time. I have no desire to accidentally offend anyone. But
Right. And I don't think you'd do anything like that on purpose or go out of your way to make a woman feel uncomfortable. But when men say things like that, usually they either think they have a shot or they want to have a shot, or they're trying to make a woman feel uncomfortable. And I don't think you would say anything like that. So standard good men don't necessarily see it all the time because they're not exposed to it all the time. And women are not loud about it because it escalates. And so that's why I don't often show, oh, look at this comment. It's once every 3 to 4 months, I'll throw a comment out there. It's like, okay, guys, I'm not here for this. And so and I'll even block out the person's name and face. And I'm like, you know what? I'm tired. I'm just going to start naming and shaming. I don't care anymore. So I was like, I don't care anymore. And it'll escalate. So that's why I don't do it so often, because it almost always escalates.
And this is not a men are evil, women are good thing. It's not that, although that is the example that comes forth in this, but it's more of a lack of knowledge and understanding is evil. I don't even see it as evil for good guys. But the thing is, the downside is if I don't say something and say this happens all the time, and I don't readily show examples all the time, then good guys, they don't absorb it as much. Not because, they're insensitive, but because they're not exposed to it all the time. So it's important to kind of raise awareness, but without constantly beating, a dead horse and say, this happens all the time. This happens all the time. Because that's not what that account's about. But I do try to educate a little bit sometimes on that. Oh,
Yeah.
uh-oh, had to save this for the show. I got it. And you see, this emits massive amounts of CO2 and therefore must be curtailed. There, I saved it.
Anyway,
I'm not sure how. We're gonna do like the pseudoscientist and just make an assertion and not put any supporting evidence, and hopefully it'll go well. But speaking of which, in Andy, you mentioned people celebrating Earth Days in different ways. I did not see it firsthand, so someone please correct me if I'm mistaken. But I was told earlier that our president celebrated Earth Day by praising the rollbacks of the protections for the environment.
Wait, what was that? That was totally robotic. I didn't hear any of that.
Really? Is my transmission bad? Am I roboting at the moment?
I hear you just
fine.
Fine.
It's my end. I think it's my end.
Oh, okay. I will repeat it for your benefit, Stephen. Yeah, I was told that our president celebrated Earth Day by praising the rollbacks in the protective measures for the environment. That was the celebration of Earth Day. I
just found that article. I'll put it in the side chat.
Oh, nice. Okay, so it was actual. I mean, it's not like I don't trust the people.
It's 5 hours ago.
Well, I mean, did you expect anything less from such a great blunder?
Well, as a result, and it's funny with what. See, everybody on the panel knows what the new prize is. See, apparently, no one that comes to Sunday Science is in fact a climate change denier, because not one person wanted to get the climate denier kit where it makes the CO2 in one bottle and all that. No, so as a result,
I thought that was actually kind of a neat little guy.
We're gonna give it to somebody anyway. We'll force it on them.
All right.
but anyway, the new prize, which fits in just perfectly with today's news, is again you go to the same link and it'll be another random sort of thing. The new thing is here. It is. Here's the new prize. It's a Donald Trump squeeze ball, which I purchased myself at a local 7-Eleven. So there you go.
Great.
And yeah, so we got one of those up for grabs. It'll be a random thing. Go to ScienceStrikeForce.com. There's in the menu bar. There's a thing to enter for the contest, and it's going to ask for the code. And just like the last time when we gave away the little mini zap thingies, this time the code will be something. Let's see, difficult to remember. So anybody who didn't bother to join us won't be able to do it. How about the code will be, "Give me the goddamn squeeze ball psi." How's that? That's the code. Give me the goddamn squeeze ball psi.
Nice.
That works.
Sweet.
There you go. That's you know what they're not. 2 of them. We'll give 2 of them away. That's I'll go get another one. 2 is always better. Alrighty. So that's
one for each hand.
Indeed. No, they can't go to the same person. We'll give them to 2 people. We'll give them to 2 people that live close to each other, so they can throw them at each other.
That's a good idea.
Okay.
Okay, I've been waiting a little while. I'm very curious to know what that intro music for what you wanted to show was, Mel. That sounded very cool, and I'm getting very curious as to what that was.
Yeah. Oh yeah, let's.
Because I couldn't see anything, of course. I could just hear some introductory music.
So we should probably bring that up. Give me a second to get the sharing going again, so you guys can see. Otherwise, Andy won't see it again. Which, I mean, I see the humor in that, but Andy might not.
Well, I mean, I can always turn my phone on and see it that way, but...
Yes, and then turn the sound on, so with the lag, you'll hear everything twice with an offset, and your brain will slowly be toasted. Okay.
Oh, of course.
I believe everyone can see the screen.
Yeah.
You're set to send video. Okay, here we go. Here's Mel's thing, and she will have something to say, no doubt. Here it comes. That is going to be my ringtone.
Conservation tillage is a farming method where farmers plow their land less. This leaves more plants and roots in the field as organic matter to nourish the soil. It also keeps the soil from being blown or washed away during rain or windstorms. This protection from the elements helps keep the soil from drying out so quickly, which helps conserve water and is especially important during times of drought. It also conserves fuel since the farmer makes fewer trips across the field with his tractor. For this type of farming to be effective, farmers leave at least 30% of the last crop in the soil.
Well, we first started out with the Kitten Land Company a number of years ago, over 20 years ago, with the basic operation of putting in terraces on dryland farms. In the last couple of years, they've gone to using conservation tillage more on many of their center pivots, and they believe in that now. They're going in that direction. They're really a major supporter of conservation tillage, and it's taken a lot of years in Lubbock County to sell that particular practice with cotton. But with the new varieties of cotton and what we call Roundup Ready cotton today, where they can spray Roundup over the top for weed control, that has came into being where conservation tillage can be used at a pretty regular or normal basis.
The benefits of conservation tillage are numerous, but the main thing I would tell somebody is you might as well get off the fence, because if you're going to go there sooner or later, and you might as well get there sooner, because the way things are, the environment that we're farming in, that's the only way. I mean, we have to go that way. We have to take care of the land. There's going to be less of it to produce in the future, and we have to take care of what we have and make sure that we're producing as much as we can.
If you will look back and study over the years, just in the amount of wind erosion that has occurred in the last 20 years compared to the prior 20 years, you will find that has decreased probably by 60 or 70%. So in that respect, we've made a great deal of difference in this area. The other thing that I think we've made is we're selling conservation tillage as a whole. Like in this area where cotton has been planted for a number of years, organic matter has been depleted. As Craig has talked about earlier, we're getting that organic matter back. We're installing some more of that organic matter back in the soil. We're improving on the soil tilth of this land greatly. So therefore, yes, sir, I do believe we are doing some good out here on the land.
It's a better way to take care of the land is just a bonus for us, because that way we can hopefully continue to do this long into the future.
YouTube, right?
So there's going to be a test.
We learned things today. Oh, goodness. Yay!
Yeah, indeed. If there's going to be a test at the end, you have to warn me.
I'm sorry. I thought that was a pretty cool test. I think I got most of it right, except for when I screamed YouTube at the end, but I did that on purpose. Because the science denier is like, there's a YouTube video about this. And you're like, no, honey. No. Go to the experts.
Don't worry, though. The particular YouTube video does have citations. There are other YouTube videos, so all is well.
Okay.
I try to put references and citations in my videos when applicable, unless I'm filming my poop lights outside.
See, on my videos, I always post all my slides on my website that they can go and download my actual content that I used and click on all the links and see where I got everything. So that works for me too. So conservation tillage, conservation tilling even. The reason why that's really, really cool is because of the fact you don't have to bust up the land, because in the past, they would have to till the land in order to get rid of all the weeds, in order to get rid of all the old pieces of plants and kind of break it up to where they can reseed. But the problem is whenever you break up land like that, you release carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, and it also requires more water in order to bust up that land. So with conservation tillage, the cool thing about that, and this is where we talk about GMOs. And I just talked about this last Saturday on my science show. And if you don't want to watch the live stream, I did do a shortened version, Scientist Most Shorts. It's about 20 minutes long, and I mentioned conservation tillage. Well, Monsanto, I know a lot of people hate that word. They came up with glyphosate. Glyphosate is a really, really cool herbicide, and it'll completely knock out the weeds that you don't want. But they also have plants that farmers can use that are resistant to that particular herbicide. And so the thing is you're able to just use this one pesticide instead of constantly having to use multiple pesticides against these, particular weeds. And you have crops that are resistant to it, so it doesn't affect them. And so rather than have to worry about weeds constantly and then going back and having to re-till, you can just, gather what you need after you grow your crop. You just, harvest what you got, and then whatever's left, you just let it lie there, and it becomes your mulch, and you can reseed right on top of it. There's water conservation. There's no soil erosion. You just kind of enrich the soil with the plant parts and the room that's already there. So that's why they're kind of moving towards conservation tillage as opposed to traditional tillage. And just that's kind of where we need to go, because the fact is we're having more droughts. We're having floods in some cases. GMO is probably going to be the way to go because of the drought-resistant crops, because of the fact that water is exceedingly less and going to be more expensive, especially for farming. So the less amount of water that they need to use to grow plants, the better.
Indeed. And,
can I say a comment about GMOs really quick?
Sure.
Sure.
I have no problem with them. I actually wish they were in use in the 90s when I was in the military. It's like we keep using more and more resources. We keep coming up with these new ways to, like GMOs, drought-resistant crops, stuff like that. And people are never satisfied. No matter what we do, it's wrong. And they want to have their cake and eat it too. I mean, you can't feed a world of nearly 8 billion people off organic gardens. You just can't do it. That's it. I'm done. I'm done.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Oh, and check the time, all.
Whoa!
There's some place this has gone quickly, and Jesus, this
I just have like a 15-minute video.
We did, and I don't think we're doing that because there's some place I have to be. So
yeah, I was gonna say that I guess my I'll skip out on mine this time, but no worries with that. It was just more methane exploding out of permafrost. So
I so wanted to watch that one again though.
What? It's not like it's off the list permanently, but anyway, we should probably wrap it up. Everybody, don't forget.
Yeah, we probably should.
Don't forget to sign up for the fabulous prizes, 2 of them, and and a good time will be had by all with them, I'm sure.
And don't forget everybody, let people know about Side Strike so I can break that 3,000. Apparently, my friends suck and have failed me.
Well, yes, absolutely. Let's all help Side Strike break the 3,000 sub mark.
He's so close. Subscribe if you haven't already.
It's like literally less than 12.
Indeed.
12 of you. Come on, man.
9. It's 9. All right.
9.
Okay.
Well, thank you, everybody. On that note, any final comments? Anyone?
No. It is about time that I wrap up my gardening work for the day, anywho. So.
All right.
This has been a fun series. I'm so glad I got to be a part of it. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining.
Now you're required to come back every time.
Oh no.
Oh, is this what it was?
Your presence will be requested.
We'll be
one of us. One of us.
All right. Well, happy Earth Day, all. How's that? And
happy Earth Day.
That works.
We'll see you next time. Have a nice week, everybody.
You too. Bye.